I'm not gonna lie. When I first found out I was classified to Lucasville, I was shook. I wasn't terrified, trembling, scared, but I was nervous. I was shook. I had about 7 years in at that time, and it was really just a fear of the unknown type of situation. I didn't know what to expect. You hear all these crazy ass stories, and it's just one of them things you don't know until you experience it for yourself type of deal. When it just always this has always stuck out in my head because I met him. It was weird because I remember I get to the hub in Franklin County, which is the transport. Like if you're riding from one prison to another, everybody goes to the hub in Columbus, and then the prison you're going to comes and picks you up from there. And while I was sitting there, there were some guys in the holding tank who had came there for medical purposes and were going back. And so, there's a few of us. There was like 8 of us that ended up riding the loop that day. And guys are asking questions. And they let us know, they was trying to give us the game, and they was telling us, you're going to go to 4B, which when I say 4B, 4B is at Lucasville. Lucasville is a level 4 prison. If you're on the compound, general population, you're considered 4A. If you're in the hole, you're considered 4B, which is higher security. I don't know why at Lucasville they call it 4B, but they do. But the thing about the hole at Lucasville is it's different than any other hole I ever been to. And the reason it's different is because I've seen guys that have been back there 16 years, 17 years. And them are the guys I'm going to talk about today. The guys at the hub kept warning us. You're going to go to 4B as long as you're not in the block. He mentioned 3 names that kept coming up. Doghead, 5-5, and Sabo. Doghead, they could call him Short Dog, Dog Face. Michael Curry was his name. He said, man, you don't want to go back there with them guys because they're notorious shit slingers. And up until that point, I had 7 years in the joint. I had never once heard the term shit slinger. And I had especially never heard the term professional shit slinger. Have I heard stories about guys throwing shit on COs? Yes. Have I heard stories about guys throwing piss and doing that type of... Yeah, you hear about it, but usually it's the fucking nut jobs. And they're isolated incidents. Like up until I got to Lucasville, I'd probably seen that happen twice. I had actually seen more guys eat their own shit than actually throw it on somebody else up until that point. Now that I think about it. So we get to Lucasville. I go through that intake process, which took all fucking day. Was probably the most demoralizing, dehumanizing day. It was a million times worse than CRC. I mean, they strip you when I went. I can't speak for everybody, but on the day I went in 2007. I believe I got there in March or April of 2007. And They stripped us out naked. They put us in these phone booth size individual holding cells. They're cages. They're about the size of a phone booth. And there was a bunch of them that went around this room. And they put all 8 of us in our own cage. And we stood there butt ass naked for at least the first hour. Like, it was just crazy. So they moved me to my block. I get in there. Doghead is 2 cells down from me to my left. And 5-5 is in the first cell at the end of the range by the shower, which is the worst cell. Well, it's the worst, because if you're in the first cell by the shower or you're in the last cell by the phones, them dudes, that's where the phones are at the end of the range, the showers are at the front of the range. So if you get shit slingers in them cells, nobody will get on the phone, because every time somebody tries to get on the phone, they'll hit them with shit or piss. And same goes for the shower. And in Lucasville, if you're in 4B, when I was there, they didn't have tablets. You got 1 phone call a week, and it was every weekend. And you got to pick your day, which day you wanted to call. And so, you know, if you got guys that are throwing shit and piss at you when you try to go get on the fucking phone. And so anyway, that's what 5-5 would do. 5-5 would have problems with guys, even if he didn't have problems with guys. Dudes would be going in to get their shower, and he'd hit them with shit and piss. Well, that's his reputation anyway. I hadn't seen any of it until this story. So, before I got there, now let me tell you this. 5-5 had been in the hole at that time for 10 years straight. Doghead, Michael Curry, had been back there for 16 straight. He had actually been back there since the Lucasville riot. He got stabbed up by a bunch of ABs, and he swears to God in his head that the COs set him up, which they may have, because you have a lot of racist COs down there. And just said he was in fear for his life and refused to come out. And he stayed back there that whole time. It wasn't even called 4B when he first went back there. It was called AC, Administrative Control. But anyway, 5-5 had been asking, can he get a porter job? Now in 4B, 4B ain't nothing. I was on K side. I was in K3. If you walk into K3, I'm walking in. We're walking in together. It looks like a long hallway, like a big hallway. It's about 30 feet wide, maybe 100 feet long. And to your right, there's 20 cells on the bottom range, and there's 20 cells on the top range. To your left is a wall with windows, and then there's, I think, 5 TVs that were on it. And that's it. The shower is at the very front of the cell, and the phones are on the wall at the very back of the cell. That's it. Now upstairs, it's the same, but upstairs, about 5 feet away from the cell door, is a fence. So it's like a tunnel you're walking through on the top range. And they let one porter out on the top, and they let one porter out on the bottom. And that porter cleans the block. That porter passes out food. He's basically the errand boy. He does all the shit the COs don't want to do. Now that has its perks, obviously. But if you are a maggot, if you got bad paper on you, or if he just don't fuck with you, it can get slow for you because everything you get, including your food, comes through the porter. So this man's been back there all this fucking time, all these years and shit. But he's got a reputation. He's a shit slinger, a professional shit slinger. They don't want him throwing shit and piss on their staff or at anybody anymore. And he wants a porter job. And the main reason two reasons. 5'5" was a booty bandit. He used to go to his punk's cell and fuck him through the bars. That's a true story. He used to do the same thing at rec. Everybody's got their own individual rec cage, but it's a cage and there's holes in the cage that big. And he would, intentionally get in the cage next to his punk. And he would fuck him through the rec cage. It's a true story. Ask anybody who knew 5'5" and they'll tell you. So he wanted to get out for that reason. And then another reason was, at that time you could smoke. There was still tobacco in prison. But because he was a shit slinger and because he was a maggot, nobody looked out for him. Nobody would, and he was broke. He didn't have no friends. He was a booty bandit who'd been in the hole for 10 years. Ain't nobody, The punk he was fucking had been back there for years. That's the only reason he knocked him off. So yeah, he was a smoker who couldn't get any cigarettes and a coffee drinker who couldn't get any coffee. And anybody who's been in prison knows how serious that coffee is. So imagine how serious cigarettes were. So anyway, he's been asking the COs for over a year at least, can he get this porter job? And they kept telling him, we'll make you a deal. If you go a whole year without getting any write-ups or any tickets, any infractions whatsoever, we'll give you a porter job. So about a week, maybe 2. I don't think it was that long. I'm saying probably about a week after I get there, they give this motherfucker the porter job. Now, I don't know the full history of everything I've just told you. I ended up learning it. But during these few days, this week that I've been there, I've heard arguments on the range. I've heard conversations on the range. I'm picking up on what's going on. And basically, 5'5" is beefing with everybody because they won't look out for him. They won't nobody give him no tobacco, won't nobody give him no coffee. And he's trying to get out to get this porter job so A, he can get his hands on some of that, and then B, he wants retribution. Now, me, being that I've only been there, we'll say a week, he's never asked me for nothing for me to tell him no. So in my eyes, I don't got nothing to do with this shit. And I don't give a fuck. I'm not getting shit and piss thrown on me. Especially from a dude who's been locked up 20 years fucking punks this whole time. And I know what's coming. Because I'm hearing it. He's telling these motherfuckers, when I get out, you know what it is, motherfucker. Y'all know what time it is. Dudes were actually telling on him. Trying to block him from getting out. Well, the CO lets him out, man. And what had happened was the other porter ended up getting released back to the compound. And the CO came in on first shift and kind of got stuck. And most of my range, other than maybe 4 or 5 guys, were new. A lot of us hadn't even been, because you had to be back there a certain amount of time to even be eligible to be a porter. So basically, the CO left 5-5 out. He was an older dude, been down or been working there for a while, and was slipping. He put some misguided trust into this dude. 5-5 had been saving shit and piss in his cell for God only knows how long. But I'll tell you this, folks, he had enough, because they give you styrofoam cups, and sometimes you'll get a styrofoam tray. And they got lids. And he was shitting and pissing in these styrofoam cups and letting them ferment in his cell under his bed for weeks and months. I don't know how long. Nobody would know because it smells like shit and piss back there all the time anyway, because people throw shit and piss all the time anyway. But I know he had enough shit and piss to hold the block hostage for almost an entire shift. It was like 5 or 6 hours. And that's not an exaggeration, because it started before breakfast and lasted till after lunch. He went to every cell individually, one by one, and threw shit and piss. You can't hide because it's bars. And threw shit and piss on every individual, one at a time. When he got to my cell, I had already had tobacco in a bag I made up for him and coffee. I didn't have much to give him. But as soon as he got to he was gonna hit me. He did. You could see it when he looked at me. He didn't even recognize me. He had no idea who the fuck I was. But before he could even get into doing anything, I stopped him dead in his tracks. And I put him out. And I said, please, please, do not hit me with that. I said, man, I just got here, bro. I ain't denied you nothing, man. Here. And he I swear it worked. He never once threw anything at me or near me. Now, there was shit on the range, but he let me breathe. And continued on about his business. People, man, when I tell you, the CO came to and tried to negotiate. Look, we're going to bring in the food cart, man. If you just chill, we're going to feed you. We'll let you get your extras and then lock down. And he wasn't on it. And they bring in the food cart. They brought in the breakfast cart. He started throwing shit, cups, and piss on the food at the CO. Repeated it at lunch. And that's pretty much what he did. For 6 hours, he stuck people up for cigarettes and coffee, got as much as he could possibly get, bombed people out repeatedly, went down there and fucked around with his punk. I don't know if he fucked him. I don't think anything like that happened, but he was down at his cell most of the time. And then he would leave to throw more shit and piss. And a reality sunk in. I told you I was nervous before I got to Lucasville. But at this moment, my mentality changed into it's war. I knew what now, because there's inmates in Ohio, they call them Lucasville inmates. And anybody who's done any amount of significant time in Ohio knows what a Lucasville inmate is. They're guys who have been to Lucasville for years. If they finally decide to leave Lucasville, which most of them don't. You got guys that'll stay in Lucasville forever. They act different. They're weird. Their mentality's different. And I knew at this moment I'm not dealing with people that are playing with a full deck. Like, I knew the severity of what I was dealing with. Not just because you see, it's insane. Think of a guy in his 40s holding a block hostage with cups of shit and piss that he had been saving for who he had enough to hold the block hostage 6 hours. And I knew I was dealing with, if I were to get into it with somebody, man, it was going to be him or me. And now I know why Lucasville has the reputation it has, because it's full of inmates like that. Or it was. I had a lot of people getting at me, wanting me to clarify this story because I spoke about it on the Fresh Out podcast. I had touched on it briefly. So I hope I did that for y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Please smash the like and subscribe button. Help the channel grow. Share the video. We're past 400, y'all. Much love, man. And until the next time, it's the Hoodie Man. I'm out, y'all.